Hi, Dr. Schlegel. For this video, I'm going to be playing the Brahms 4 Serious Songs, 4th movement. The goal of this is to work on the Adagio section from bar 48 all the way to the end of the movement. There are two distinct changes in it when it comes to pitch. The goal is to play this without any pitch issues, to play the correct character, and to also play it with great phrasing. I'm going to break this up into two major sections. The first section will be the Adagio, that's 48-73, and then the second section is 73 out. It's kind of a recap of the A. So first I'm going to talk about the A section, then play a little, stop, talk about the B section, play a little, stop. The A section, we're in B major. This is a bit slower. It's Adagio. It starts with Dulce. So going to work on playing this great, and we'll see where it goes. I'm going to start with a run of that first section. Then I can diagnose. Alright, so right off the bat, I talked about having pitch issues. So the first 3 or 4 bars, I completely flubbed that. So to fix that, I'm going to play it slowly now, make sure all the pitches are there. Sorry, excuse me. I'm not really happy with that interval from the C sharp to the E, then back to a D sharp. So slow that down some more. Still not completely satisfied with that, so going to remove the tongue and specifically just play notes. Right now I'm having little issues with resonance and with it speaking, so I'm going to be focus on that real quick. Alright, now that I feel better about the notes, I'm going to add the tongue back in. So earlier in the video I talked about having great phrasing, and that's something I noticed with that line. It's very important. I've got to lead all the way to that last note. I'm going to move on. What I didn't like about this next section is it felt very choppy, so I'm going to focus on blowing through and connecting. Alright, gonna stop up there. I noticed it's very choppy, so pitch is kind of, it's okay right now, but I'm going to slow it down. No tongue. Going to first just my stand. There we go. Alright, so this next section is really important because this is kind of the build up into the high point of this, which is bar 70-ish, around 70. So I'm going to make sure I come back down, I start building, also that connecting these notes. So here it goes. Alright, before I go on, we'll talk about the current section. In my score, in my part, at bar 70, I've just got a half note. I've got 2/8 notes followed that. But in all the other vocal arrangements and performances, they kind of ornament there. So that's what I'm going to focus on now because I don't really still feel great about the ornamentation. So I'm going to slow that section down and really kind of get a grip on what I want to do. Change something real quick. Traditionally, towards the end of that and all of the previous iterations of this, they've been told to have vibrato, and to be honest, that makes it a whole lot more interesting. Excuse me. So, I'm adding vibrato into that phrase to kind of give it some musical shape, and this whole piece, is a vocal work, so I am specifically trying to emulate a vocalist. So that is further vibrato there. I'm going to back up a little bit, play that last section, see where it's at. Then I'm going to take like a minute off and then going to check and see how I've done so far on the Adagio section. I'm going to rent that. I did not like how I glissandi at the end. No vocalist does that, so make sure I put a little emphasis in there, some articulation. I'm gonna take a couple, maybe 30, 45 seconds off the horn while I'm not playing. Talk about this section in a whole. So the opening of the piece, it goes from E flat. This is the B major section, so it's a little bit slower. Adagio, it's dolce everywhere. This is where I really kind of get to show off, good part of my tone, musicality, and pitches, etc. So this is the kind of major B section. Then the next part, which I'll talk about after I do another run of this, is the C final section. It recaps A, then it kind of gets its own little ending. So after doing about 10 minutes on the video, about 10 minutes of work on the Adagio, I'm going to run this and then hit the other section. That way it's kind of 50-50 in the video. It's the Adagio section 48 through 73. Alright, now we're going to talk about the B section. We're back in the key of E flat. This is the recap. The climax of this piece actually is in this section specifically. We're going to crescendo up to a very nice, healthy forte at the beginning of the section in 81. It's where we kind of peak. I got this wonderful part where I get to kind of show off my high range, or we'll see maybe therefore lack of. So I'm going to do a quick run of this like I did previously. Then we're going to break apart some issues that I have, and before I start, things I've already outlined in my lesson plan is that this section specifically is it's a recap. So we're going to make sure we tie over things we did at the very beginning. We're going to make sure that during the sostenuto section we're not losing time, but we're also being expressive, pushing forward. Also with this, as I say, kind of a big goal, this is a complete pitch change, so getting back acclimated in the correct key will be important. Also, we talked about in the very beginning, playing with great phrasing, so I want to make sure that I'm not playing everything very vertical. It's very boring. So I'm going to do a quick run of this, and then we're going to break it apart like we did previously. So in short, that's the section, things I can talk about beginning, I tend to not be able to start well after talking a lot in these videos, so I messed up the rhythm at the beginning. I did like, though, the overall sound I had, and I felt like pitch was generally there, but just to solidify the rhythm, I'm going to slow down the beginning, make sure I'm subdividing, because though it is like the beginning section, there are a couple parts that are different rhythmically. So I'm going to slow down real quick, just the first couple of bars, make sure I'm there, before we move on to the 3/4 section towards the end. Something I've noticed specifically about those couple bars, these are open, perfect fifths, so they've got to be in tune. So that's what I'm going to focus on real quick. It's just getting these little fifths in. So I'm going to go kind of down the slide a little bit, try to get that fifth in my brain. Feeling much better. So corporate now, I'm going to play up to the 3/4 section, then talk about 3/4 section. Alright, feeling much better about that section. The intervals were better. I said intervals twice. The rhythm was better. So that was this 3/4 section. What we talked about earlier, it's keeping time, but also being expressive. I tend to play things vertically, so I'm going to play first couple bars and make sure that I'm in the right state, time-wise and articulation-wise, all that. Not happy with how notes are speaking, slow down. Now the whole point of this line is to push all the way to that any section. So now I'm going to play it now with gusto, pushing all the way, being expressive, but also not sacrificing time. Alright, so now this ending section, it's not my favorite. It is kind of a abrupt ending, and it's very anticlimactic, but I get to incorporate the in this piece a lot. Phil talked about this earlier. There tends to always be a very long, sustained note that would go up by half step, leaning into the next harmonic series. So really make sure I blow all the way through, really embellish that half step up, and then really just nail that change. For this, it's very, very loud, and all of a sudden suddenly quiet, very somber at the end. Things I didn't like about that, intervals at the very end, I kind of chop them, so I'm going to play it slow, connect it, make sure we're nice and in tune. at the very end of this, I like to add a little vibrato to kind of state, it's as stately as it can be, an ending. Also, this is vocal, so the vocals is going to be vibrating there. I'm going to start this big section, really getting it down at the end. As we talked about earlier, kind of my goals for this is playing correct characters to be emulating of what a vocalist would do. The pitch has been much better, and phrasing, that's my biggest thing. I can play notes and rhythms, but I work on the phrasing, so I'm going to really focus on that by blowing through and being very critical. I'm going to stop if I'm not happy with the note. I want to make this last section a good run. Couple things about that. When I get the piano, when I get the piano soft, my notes tend to fall off a little bit. So I'm going to make sure that I give it good air support. So I'm going to do the last couple bars. Then we're going to wrap it up with a run of the second section. Alright, going to take about 45 seconds, maybe a minute, off the face, then I'm going to do a run of this. Alright, here's the run of the second section, and this will conclude the video.